This question is asking what the square root of 128 in simplest radical form is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 128 and I'm going to break it apart into two factors where the first one is a perfect square because it's square root, and the second is whatever's left over. So I'm going to look down here. I don't know why I would look at my answers. I'm never going to look at my answers. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to go to y equals, I'm going to type in x raised to the second power. When I do that, I can go to my table, and my table is going to give me a list of all the perfect squares, which is all well and good, except I don't know the factors of 128 very well, so it's tough for me to pick the right perfect square. So what I'm going to do in my y equals, so I'm going to go down to the second y equals, and I'm going to type in 128 divided by x. When I do that and go into my table, now my first column will be all of my perfect squares. My second column are going to be all of my factors of 128. And if I look real close, I'm going to see 64 is right there, and 64 is also a perfect square. So 64 times 2 is 128. I'm going to come back over here. 64 times 2 is 128. 64 is a perfect square because 8 times 8 is 64. This is going to be 8 times the square root of 2. That's my answer. Now I'm going to go look and I'm going to match it. It looks like it's A. But just to verify, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my home screen and I'm going to type the square root of 128 in. So I have second, x squared gives me the square root, 128, hit enter, and I get this number here, 11.31. And in that number here, there's only going to be one other number that matches when I type these in. So I did 8 times the square root of 2 and hit enter, and that's the number that matches. So I know that these two are equivalent to each other. If I typed in anything wrong, or, well, actually, this one right here, C, 4 times the square root of 8, is probably going to give me the right answer as well, but that's not in simplest radical form. So if you look at your answer choices here, this has the square root of 4 in it still as a factor. This one should be erased immediately, and this one should be erased immediately, because those aren't going to be in simplest form. Okay, so if you're just guessing by using the calculator, these kind of questions might get you caught choosing the wrong answer. So you just really have to be careful what you choose.